Hey guys, Cola here, and I am definitely not forgetting how I start these intros. Now, some of you, the smart lot, so not a lot of you, hey, don't take that as an insult. You know what they say, birds of a feather help each other move furniture together, and call in every now and then to check that I'm still existing. But yeah, some of you would have noticed that this video is a little different, a throwback to the past. That's right, I'm reviewing episode 3 and episode 4 together. Partly because I'm running a bit behind on schedule, but mainly because episode 3 is kinda skippable. Remember in season 1 when I mocked a couple episodes for feeling like filler, even though they were essential viewing for the plot? Well, episode 3 is actually filler, focusing on Velma's hate of the rich and her eventual turn to the dark side. And episode 4 is... just wait until we open that can of worms. So yeah, this is gonna be a double header. If you enjoy my crippling addiction to bad shows and movies, please like and subscribe, and spoilers for anyone who cares. Guys, I gotta come clean. I kinda actually underestimated how filler episode 3 actually is. So we are just gonna steamroll right through it, okay? Are you ready? Velma finds her mom and Fred's dad together and is upset not because that he used to be a racist, but because he is rich. And to be fair, she does bring up the fact that seeing the guy who was married to your kidnapper of 2 years is kinda strange. Velma hates rich people, which we get reminded of a lot.
You know I hate the rich. I'd be a communist if I didn't want to kill my lazy teammates on every group project.
That thesis of mine that Velma is a deranged psychopath in the making is looking more and more plausible every episode. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that she was the new serial killer. Apparently, it's the science fair on Monday, and Velma and her mom make a deal that if Velma wins it, Deal will stop seeing Fred's dad. And the most unbelievable thing I find in this show is that Velma's skirt has pockets. We cut to Norville's dad checking up on Norville, making sure he is taking the necessary weed to get rid of his hallucinations. Norville has been tricking his dad with dirty pee, but now he's all fresh out of pee and needs more quickly before his dad tests him on Monday. I never thought I would ever have to say that again. It turns out that Norville's dad is going to be the judge at the science fair since Mr. S is now dead. And also because he needs the money to pay back the mafia for all the weed he has been buying. Don't think about it too hard. That plot point goes absolutely nowhere. Norville agrees to help Velma win the science fair as long as she helps him get some contaminated pee, leading to this gem of a line.
I can't. The one time I got high, I was convinced a dog was talking to me.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Literally pissing on his grave. We cut to Dia taking Velma to Fred's mansion to try and sway her to like William, Fred's dad, and that rich people can be cool too. We are then subjected to a so-so musical number that is, and I hate to admit it, decent.
You are poor, so you will like this. Some joy in your grubby little life miss.
And thanks to that musical number, Velma's morality is flipped completely on its head, and she has become what she hates. A bunch of nothing happens between now and the science fair unless you want to count Fred learning what hugging is and where toast comes from, Daphne wrestling with the idea of being friends with someone who isn't popular and isn't Velma and thinks manifesting is scientific enough for a fair, and Norville willing to risk it all. It's now the science fair, and Norville is stressed out because his science experiment of shocking his own brain into not feeling anxiety anymore is nowhere near the guinea pig stage. And he's just found out that Velma is a terrible friend for the second time.
Oh, okay, but where's the dirty pee? Papa needs that liquid gold.
Sorry, one of the cleaning people must have thrown it out. But don't worry, it's okay if you fail the test and we lose. I want my mom to date William.
So Norville is forced to fry his own brain, but this doesn't matter because Velma wins anyway, thanks to William paying off the mafia. You thought they weren't coming back, but that's it, that's all they do. And apparently, this stops Velma wanting to be rich because now everyone hates her for it. So she wants everyone to hate her for who she is. I'm not joking, she literally says that.
Well, I'm not rich, so if people are gonna hate me, I wanna earn it.
The episode ends with Fred actually winning the science fair due to his project being the only one actually being completed mostly by himself. Norville faces side effects for frying his own brain, who would have guessed, and this causes him to lose all empathy, and I actually kind of like it.
Norville, That's just the science talking. Take it back.
Or what, loser?
Hopefully, this sticks for the rest of the season, or until it is inevitably reverted in a dumb way. In fact, this entire scene is actually kind of funny. It's being heavily carried by the animation, but still pretty funny. I love the way Fred jumps in here. However, this lands everyone in Saturday detention. The episode seems to have forgotten that this is still a murder mystery show, so they quickly tack on an end credit scene just to remind you that, hey, remember this? Remember the serial killer? There's a serial killer on the loose. Ooh, I wonder who this leg belongs to. Yeah, this episode is mostly filler, where nothing really adds to the plot. I rate it a 2 out of 10, and that is just for that super hot fire parody scene. This episode is somehow worse than episode 2, and only because it's pure filler. Episode 2 was boring, but at least it was still plot related. If episode 3 was filler, then episode 4 is filler on an acid trip. Hell, we don't even get an end stinger that adds any new significant information to the current serial killer case. And no, I am not accepting Norville finding a file in Mr. S's desk about Edna Purdue who is using an alias as new evidence. We already knew he was interested in her work. The only new information here is that she may still be alive, but I'm calling BS on that one. Smells like a red herring. So, episode 4 starts with Velma and the rest of the gang showing up to school on a Saturday to do their Breakfast Club style detention. Oh, did you like that reference? Well, you better get used to it then, because every other sentence spoken this episode is basically telling you they are doing a Breakfast Club reference.
Ugh, poser.
Hey, your Saturday detention looks just like the Breakfast Club.
We're doing a breakfast club, baby.
Are you using the cameras to monitor yet another 80s movie detention?
I knew you were forcing these poor kids into an 80s detention, Lamont.
Wait! Velma men crawl through the ceiling like in the Breakfast Club. Oh, damn it!
It's nice to see Norville having a backbone now, even if it was caused by frying his own brain.
Thanks for taking me to detention, Mom. Love you. Suck a turd, Lamont.
Daphne's arc this episode is about her going on a journey of self-discovery, and thanks to Amber, she thinks she's a witch. It's also about her learning that Velma is a terrible person and an even worse friend.
You of all people know how much I've struggled to find the real me, and I finally did. This is who I am.
That's not true. It can't be. Because it's not the unknown that freaks me out. It's idiots like you who ignore facts and science that do.
Daphne, I didn't need an arc to tell me that Velma is a shitty person. So, they all enter the school, and this is where things get weird. Of all the things that happened this season, I did not have Velma's dad reminiscing high school life via memory acid trip as one of the things to happen. There is so much focus on it, it's pretty much the B-plot. Amon, Velma's dad, talks to Gigi's dad. By the way, remember Gigi? She was pretty much a regular last season, and this season, the writers seem to have forgotten about her. This episode is her most noticeable appearance by far, and even then, her lines are kinda whack.
Forget it, Velma. Daphne doesn't want us anymore. We're like rich kids trying to get into an Ivy these days. Rejected? Unless you're super rich.
Anyway, after talking to Gigi's dad, Amon does his best Drake impression and sneaks into the high school, where he wanders around mostly in the background until he enters the principal's office, finding a newspaper article that reminds him that becoming a lawyer ruined his life. Okay? Moving on to the main plot now, if you can call it that, follows Velma and the rest of the gang in detention with Norville's dad, explaining for the umpteenth time that they're doing a breakfast club. Hell, each of the characters even have an oddly specific flaw.
I know each of you is dealing with a common teen issue. Who am I? Girlfriend is now a witch. Don't even know where to start. Brain in a jar. Has hallucinations because he accidentally killed Fred's mom with a stalactite. This is all standard stuff, people.
Lamont, Norville's dad, wants them to engage in wacky hijinks that will somehow lead to all of them solving their issues. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. They all leave this episode the exact same, if not worse, making me wonder why this episode even exists. I know I give the writers of this show a hard time, but as a screenwriter myself, It's just tough love. I don't want to see them fail, and as a writer, a filler episode is supposed to be a bit like a palate cleanser. You have a couple episodes of high octane action or mystery solving, maybe even the end of an arc, and before you start a new one, filler tends to be a more low stake episode, giving the writers a chance to truly flex their creative muscles. And even filler episodes should contain a couple hints or clues towards the overarching story if you don't want it to be completely skippable. At least, that's what I believe good filler should strive to accomplish, the calm before the storm. So, this episode existing is a bit strange, especially since the episode before was also filler, and in a 10-episode season, these 2 episodes feel like a wasted slot. Yes, I guess you could say that this episode focuses on the characters and their relationships, but there is no excuse for episode 3. Let's get back on track. Lamont is keeping an eye on the kids via the security cameras installed around the school, and Norville is still suffering from hallucinations, even though frying his brain should have fixed that. Amber and Daphne believe that maybe Norville isn't suffering from hallucinations at all, but is actually being haunted. With everything that has happened in this entire show, the most unbelievable thing I find is still the fact that Velma's skirt has pockets. Am I the only one thinking about this? Like, what year is this show set in? The future? But yeah, everyone goes along with the idea that Norville is being haunted, even Velma, and they believe the best way to cure him is by performing a seance. It turns out that Velma only went along with the idea because she wanted to expose Amber as a fraud and prove that her entire religion is a sham.
And as your best friend, I am gonna prove that this is not who you are.
She's even got JJ and the other one on her side. So they agree to do a seance, but first they have to create a distraction because apparently doing a seance is exactly the kind of hijinks Lamont is looking for. But we all know what teenagers love to do the most. That's right, disappointing their elders. They manage to convince Lamont that Velma is fat enough to be stuck in a wall somewhere, giving them enough time to find the items needed for the seance. This leads to Fred's arc this episode, and the only arc that I think makes this entire episode somewhat redeemable. Since it is believed that his mother is the one haunting Norville, Fred needed to get an item of his mother's that could be used as some sort of anchor point, so he gets her locket.
Oh, it's her dog's.
Yeah, it's her backup locket. She had one of Father and me as well, probably, but was buried with it. Probably.
I feel so bad for Fred. To give credit where credit is due, this season so far has really humanized him, showing the struggles of a teenage boy with a neglectful father and a dead mother that was a serial killer who may or may not have been possessed by the ghost of Edna Purdue, Norville's grandmother. Lamont gets in trouble for trying to do a Breakfast Club style detention and is forced to be in detention with Velma and the rest of the gang. They still want to do the seance, but Lamont being here acts as a new obstacle where a devious plan is needed to—
Well, we might as well tell you. Norville's hallucinations are back, but Amber now thinks they are actually a ghost, so we're having a seance to prove Amber right.
So what? What's the point in the last 15 minutes of this episode? The seance is underway and Velma is sussed out for her evil intentions. She claims that she doesn't believe in a higher power, and Daphne calls her out that Velma has indeed had an encounter with a higher power, Beyonce. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. If you want to find out what that means, watch the episode yourself. Of course, at your own risk. The seance continues and some freaky stuff happens. The air gets cooler. Lights flicker. Books fly off shelves. And Fred receives further heartbreak.
Tell them you're innocent, and also that we are using your backup locket, not the one with my picture in it. There's a hidden inscription. This locket contains the only things I've ever truly loved. I own no other lockets? What?
Velma throws a book at who she believes is the ghost, but it turns out to be Amber. And Velma thinks that Amber set them all up by messing with the electronics to get all that freaky stuff to happen. However, I went back frame by frame, and it's literally impossible for Amber to have done it, since they were with the rest of them the entire time, which Daphne also points out. This leads to a big fight between the two where some hurtful words are said.
You of all people know how much I've struggled to find the real me, and I finally did. This is who I am.
That's not true. It can't be. Because it's not the unknown that freaks me out. It's idiots like you who ignore facts and science that do.
Yeah, shitty person. The episode ends with broken relationships that should have never existed in the first place, a man showing Gigi's dad that he owes him for not ratting him out when he sued the school. Yep, I'm not going further into that. If you want to know more, watch the episode yourself. Norville seems to be back to normal, and Fred has changed.
Are you ready for tonight's ghost hunt?
More than ever.
It's where we go.
Oh, and don't forget, there's still a serial killer on the loose, in case you forgot. All in all, this episode shouldn't exist. Yet strangely, I think I like it a bit more than episode 3, which isn't that much of an achievement. So I will rate this episode a 3 out of 10. I really like the direction they're going in with Fred's character, from a walking joke to someone who we might have to take more seriously in the coming episodes. But then again, the last time I got my hopes up, it turned out that Linda, or Donna, hired a kid to do their dirty work. Watch my last review to fully understand why. Everything else in this episode was alright. It's visually the best looking episode of the season by far, and definitely the most ambitious looking. But like I said earlier, I didn't really care about any of the plots, and nothing really tied with the overarching narrative in any meaningful way. I hope the next episode is better. What do you guys believe? Are these 2 filler episodes, or am I overreacting? Tell me in the comments down below. Cola out.